The crystal glasses clinked with forced cheerfulness at my family's monthly dinner gathering. Aunt Patricia's mansion, with its overwrought Victorian decor and army of staff, served as the perfect backdrop for their favorite activity, critiquing my life choices. So, Olivia, Aunt Patricia's voice dripped with artificial concern as she adjusted her pearl necklace, still between opportunities? I took a measured sip of water, noting how the butler hovered nearby with tomorrow's media deliveries. My cousin Marcus, fresh from his junior associate position at a mid-tier tech company, barely contained his smirk. Actually, I started, but my Uncle Gerald cut me off. Patricia, don't sugarcoat it. The girl's unemployed. Again. He emphasized the last word while cutting into his Wagyu beef. What was it this time? That little app company go under. If they'd bothered to read any tech news in the past year, they'd know that my little app company, Shadow Technologies, had just revolutionized artificial intelligence. But I'd purposely kept my name out of the press, using my middle name, Grace, for all public appearances. Until today. The app business is so unstable, my cousin Emma chimed in, adjusting her designer glasses. You should have taken that job offer at Marcus's company. At least it was a real position. Marcus nodded sagely. Entry level, but we could have trained you. Tech isn't for everyone, cousin. I bit back a laugh, thinking about the email I'd received this morning. Marcus's company was one of many that Shadow Technologies had just acquired in a series of strategic takeovers. He just didn't know it yet. Olivia, my mother sighed from across the table, we're just worried about you. 30 years old and nothing to show for it. Your trust fund won't last forever. The trust fund they thought I was living off had actually been fully invested in my company's initial development. Now it had multiplied several thousand times over, but they still pictured me as the family charity case. Remember when she turned down Harvard Business School? Aunt Patricia stage whispered to my uncle. Said she wanted to code in her garage instead. As if computers were a real career. The butler approached with a silver tray of magazines, tomorrow's advance copies that my aunt insisted on receiving to stay ahead of the social curve. Fortune magazine lay on top, its glossy cover facing down. Speaking of careers, Marcus continued, my company's stock is up 2% this quarter. We're really disrupting the industry. You probably read about us in Fortune. Fortune. My aunt brightened. Charles, do show us the new issue. I love keeping up with actual business success stories. The butler hesitated, his eyes flickering to me for just a moment. I gave him a slight nod. He'd been one of the first to figure out my secret, having seen the private documents I occasionally had delivered here. Of course, madam. He turned over the magazine with practiced elegance. The reaction was instantaneous. My aunt's fork clattered against fine china. Marcus choked on his wine. My mother froze with her glass halfway to her lips. There on the cover in crisp high definition was my face. The headline read, Shadow Technologies Olivia Grace Sterling, youngest tech billionaire reshapes artificial intelligence. The subheading was even better. How a 30-year-old coding prodigy built a $50 billion empire while staying in the shadows. That's not possible, Marcus sputtered, grabbing the magazine. This must be a mistake. No mistake, I said quietly, pulling out my phone and pulling up Shadow Technologies' acquisition announcement. Though you might want to read page 42. There's an interesting sidebar about our recent acquisitions. Including, as of this morning, your company. The silence that followed was worth every moment of their previous condescension. 50 billion? My mother whispered, her voice faint. Give or take a few billion depending on the market, I replied, finally allowing myself to relax into my chair. The AI market can be quite volatile, as Marcus would know. Or will know once he reports to his new executive board on Monday. The butler, ever professional but clearly enjoying the moment, began serving dessert. Just as the first plate touched the table, every phone in the room began buzzing with breaking news alerts. The symphony of phone notifications continued as headlines flooded in. My aunt's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she read aloud. Shadow Technologies acquires 5 major tech companies in unprecedented move. CEO Olivia Sterling emerges as industry's new power player. Marcus had gone from red to pale, his phone displaying an urgent email from his company's HR department about upcoming organizational changes. He looked at me with dawning horror. You're my new boss? Actually, I smiled, taking another sip of water, I'm your boss's boss's boss. Though technically after tomorrow's restructuring, your position will be, let's say, under review. But you've been unemployed. Aunt Patricia practically shrieked. Living in that tiny apartment, driving that basic car. That tiny apartment is actually the entire top floor of the Sterling Tower, I corrected her. I just used the service entrance to avoid attention. And that basic car is a custom-engineered prototype worth more than this house. My Uncle Gerald, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally found his voice. The Sterling Tower. You named it after yourself? No, I set down my glass carefully. I named it after Grandmother Sterling. You remember her, don't you, Uncle Gerald? The one whose foolish investment in my garage project started all this. The room fell silent again as they remembered their mockery of my grandmother's decision to fund my initial research. They'd called her senile when she liquidated her considerable assets to back my AI development. Now her portrait hung in the lobby of a building worth billions. Emma, ever the social climber, attempted damage control. Olivia, darling, we always knew you were special. Remember when I tried to introduce you to that nice IT boy from my country club? You mean the one you said could teach me basic coding? I pulled up another news alert on my phone. He actually works for me now. Heads our junior development team. Though he's still working on basic coding himself. My mother's hand flew to her throat, a gesture she always used when losing control of a situation. But all those family dinners, when we tried to help you find real work, were highly entertaining, I finished for her. Especially the one where Marcus spent an hour explaining disruption to me, right after my AI system had revolutionized his company's entire market sector. The butler reappeared with coffee service, subtly placing the latest Wall Street Journal beside my aunt. The headline made her gasp, Shadow Technologies Sterling Revolutionizes AI, How a Secret Billionaire Built an Empire in Silence. I don't understand, Marcus muttered, still staring at his HR email. How did none of us know? How did you keep this secret? I leaned forward, enjoying the moment perhaps more than I should. Because you never bothered to look past appearances. You saw what you expected to see, the family disappointment, the unemployed cousin, the failed tech dreamer. Meanwhile, I was building something that would change the world. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my executive team. Ms. Sterling, the acquisition announcements have triggered a 30% surge in our stock price. Your net worth just increased by $15 billion. I showed them the message, watching as they calculated their years of condescension against my new reality. Now then, I smiled, shall we discuss the real reason I came to dinner tonight? The tension in the dining room could have been cut with one of Aunt Patricia's sterling silver knives. Every eye was fixed on me as I pulled out a sleek tablet from my cheap bag. Actually a prototype of our new flexible display technology disguised as a simple purse. As of midnight, I began, activating a holographic display that materialized above the dinner table. Shadow Technologies will announce its next phase of innovation. We're not just revolutionizing AI anymore. We're completely transforming how technology integrates with daily life. The hologram showed our latest breakthrough neural interface technology that made smartphones obsolete. Marcus's company, which he'd bragged about all evening, was still working on touchscreens while we'd moved decades ahead. But before that announcement, I continued, watching their faces reflect the blue glow of the hologram, I wanted to give my family the courtesy of understanding their new positions. Positions, my mother whispered. Yes. You see, Grandmother Sterling didn't just invest in my garage project. She left very specific instructions about the family's future involvement in the company. I pulled up her will on the holographic display. Each family member has a choice to make tonight. Aunt Patricia straightened in her chair, pearls gleaming as she calculated her options. What kind of choice? Simple. You can either maintain your current lifestyles, completely separate from Shadow Technologies. I paused, letting them see the latest stock valuations, or you can join the company in entry-level positions, learning the business from the ground up, just like I did. Entry-level. Marcus sputtered. But I'm already a junior executive. I corrected. Your position was eliminated in the acquisition. But I'm offering you a chance to earn a real position, not one bought with family connections. The butler silently began distributing folders I'd prepared. Inside each was a detailed assessment of their current financial situation alongside their potential future with Shadow Technologies. "My God," Uncle Gerald muttered, reading his file. "These stock options are worth more than your current net worth," I finished. "But they have to be earned. No shortcuts, no nepotism, no trading on the Sterling name. You'll start at the bottom, learn every aspect of the business and prove your value." Emma frantically flipped through her folder. "But this says we'd have to relocate to the tech development campus in Montana," I nodded, "where our main research facility is hidden. Away from the spotlight, away from social clubs and country club connections. Just pure innovation and hard work." My mother's hands trembled as she read her file. "Olivia, sweetheart, all this time while we were trying to fix your life, you were too busy maintaining appearances to see what was really happening," I said softly. But grandmother saw it. She understood that true success isn't about fancy dinners and social connections. It's about vision, determination, and the courage to work in silence while others judge you. I stood up, smoothing down my deliberately simple dress, actually woven with microscopic sensors that monitored everything from body temperature to stress levels, another innovation they'd never noticed. "You have until midnight to decide," I announced. "Those who choose to join will report to orientation Monday morning. Those who don't," I smiled, thinking of all their condescending comments over the years, "can read about our success in Fortune magazine." "And Marcus's company?" Aunt Patricia asked weakly. "Will be completely restructured. The old hierarchy based on family connections and social status is over. Merit and innovation are all that matter now." My phone buzzed one final time. The stock had jumped another 20% on leaked rumors of our neural interface announcement. I showed them the update, watching as they calculated their potential futures against their past treatment of me. "Oh," I added, picking up my bag, "and Aunt Patricia? That unemployed joke you made earlier? It just cost you about $3 billion in potential stock options. Decisions have consequences." As I walked out of the mansion, I heard the chaos erupting behind me, arguments about choices, recriminations about past behavior, desperate negotiations with each other. But I didn't look back. In my basic car, actually an AI-driven prototype worth more than their combined net worth, I smiled thinking about Grandmother Sterling's last words to me. "Let them underestimate you, dear. There's no sweeter success than the one they never saw coming." My phone lit up with the final headline of the night. Shadow Technologies CEO reveals next-gen neural interface tech world stunned by innovation from unknown billionaire. Unknown no longer, I thought, driving toward my real office. Not the modest apartment they knew about, but the spectacular penthouse lab where we were reshaping the future. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in proving people wrong, but in letting them slowly realize just how right you were all along. And as for family dinners, well, they were about to get a lot more interesting for those who earned the right to attend them. Because success, like the best technology, doesn't need to announce itself. It simply needs to work perfectly when finally revealed. The aftermath of my revelation rippled through the tech world and my family with equal force. The next morning, as I sat in my real office, a stunning glass-walled command center atop Sterling Tower, the decisions started rolling in. Marcus was the first to respond, his email arriving at exactly 11:59 p.m. "I accept the entry-level position. I understand now what real innovation means." Attached was a humble, almost painful admission of how wrong he'd been about technology, leadership, and most importantly, about me. Emma followed shortly after, though her acceptance came with a telling request. "Can I at least keep my social media presence?" The answer, of course, was no. Shadow Technologies employees operated under strict privacy protocols, something she'd learn in her new position in our data security department, starting from the absolute bottom. Aunt Patricia's response was perhaps the most surprising. Rather than accept or decline, she requested a private meeting. When she arrived at Sterling Tower the next morning, gone were the pearls and designer outfit, replaced by a simple business suit. "I've been thinking all night," she said, standing in my office with an unfamiliar humility, "about what Margaret, your grandmother, used to say about true worth versus apparent worth." I gestured for her to continue, watching her take in the spectacular view of the city, a view that included her mansion, now looking remarkably small from this height. "She tried to tell us, didn't she? About you, about the future of technology. We were too busy counting our social connections to see what was right in front of us. And now? I asked, pulling up her file on my holographic display. Now I want to learn. Really learn. Not for the money or the status, but because I finally understand what Margaret saw in you. The future. I studied her for a moment, then pressed a button on my desk. A hidden door opened, revealing a sophisticated laboratory. This was grandmother's original investment in me, a secret lab she built while everyone thought she was renovating her penthouse. Would you like to see what real innovation looks like? Her eyes widened as she took in the advanced technology: quantum computers, neural interface prototypes, AI systems that made current technology look prehistoric. Welcome to Shadow Technologies' true headquarters, I said, leading her inside. Your orientation starts now. My mother chose a different path. Her letter arrived by courier, handwritten, tear-stained and deeply reflective. She didn't want a position in the company. Instead, she asked to establish a foundation in grandmother Sterling's name, supporting young innovators who, like me, had visions others couldn't see. Uncle Gerald, predictably, declined any involvement. His pride couldn't handle starting over at the bottom. Last I heard, he was trying to launch a competing tech company, unaware that Shadow Technologies already owned the patents to everything he was trying to develop. The most profound change, however, came in how they all began to see the world around them. Suddenly, every basic car might be a disguised prototype, every modest apartment could hide a revolutionary laboratory, and every unemployed relative might just be the next billionaire innovator they'd failed to recognize. At the next family dinner, held in my penthouse lab rather than Aunt Patricia's mansion, the conversation was markedly different. Instead of social gossip and status symbols, they discussed quantum computing and neural pathways. Those who'd accepted positions shared their struggles and discoveries in learning real technology from the ground up. Marcus, particularly, had transformed. 4 months into his entry-level coding position, he'd already developed a promising algorithm. I finally understand, he told me one evening. Success isn't about looking successful. It's about building something meaningful. The Henderson family's monthly dinner at their Michelin-starred restaurant, Le Maison, felt more like a culinary inquisition than a family gathering. Crystal stemware worth more than my yearly fertilizer budget caught the light as my sister Victoria adjusted her executive chef's jacket, 3 prestigious culinary medals glinting on her lapel. 3 new restaurants opening next month, she announced, critiquing the soup's consistency with her gold-plated spoon. The critics are already calling them the most ambitious culinary ventures of the year. Dad beamed, his own restaurateur awards displayed prominently behind him in the private dining room. That's my girl. Expanding the Henderson hospitality empire the right way. I stirred my soup quietly, noting how they'd used conventionally grown vegetables instead of organic. The difference in flavor was obvious, but they'd never understand. My phone buzzed discreetly, another message from the Royal Palace's procurement team. Unlike some of us, Mom added, her designer dress probably worth more than my entire greenhouse, who waste time playing farmer instead of pursuing real culinary arts. Sustainable agriculture is an art, I offered softly, checking the palace's latest order requirements. The relationship between soil and flavor. Victoria snorted, her French culinary school ring catching the light. Flavor? You mean dirt? How many covers did your farm-to-table experiment serve this year, Emma? 2. 3. Impact isn't measured in covers, I started, but Dad cut me off. Impact is everything in this business. Victoria served 300 VIPs just last night. I've got waiting lists months long at all 15 restaurants. Your mother's cooking school has a 2-year waiting list. And you've, what? Grow carrots. I glanced at my watch. A humble piece that hid its connection to some of the most exclusive kitchens in Europe. 20 minutes until the meeting that would change everything. Actually, my organic farming methods have been organic. Victoria laughed, the sound sharp as her prized Japanese knives. You mean overpriced vegetables that look like they've been through a war? Real restaurants need consistency, volume, presentation. Mom reached across the table, her diamond-encrusted hands a stark contrast to my soil-stained fingers. Darling, perhaps it's time to admit that the culinary world isn't for everyone. We could find you a nice position managing one of our cafes. Something more suitable. The hidden message alert vibrated again. Royal chef arriving in 15 minutes. Final inspection of produce before state dinner. The future of cuisine isn't just in fancy restaurants, I tried explaining, knowing they wouldn't listen. They never did. The future. Dad scoffed, swirling his imported wine. The future is in molecular gastronomy, in fusion cuisine, in innovative presentation. Not in playing around in the dirt with your little organic experiments. Victoria stood, adjusting her perfectly pressed chef's whites. Speaking of which, I should check on the new tasting menu. Got some food critics coming in tonight. Something you'd know about, Emma, if you hadn't wasted your culinary degree on farming. The restaurant's grand doors opened and our maitre d' hurried in looking flustered. Mademoiselle Emma, he announced with a slight bow. His Majesty's Royal Chef is here. Says it's about the urgent produce order for tomorrow's state dinner. The room fell silent as Chef Jean-Pierre Dubois, head chef to the royal family and holder of more Michelin stars than most countries, strode in, his presence commanding immediate attention. Mademoiselle Emma, he bowed slightly, Your Majesty's organic farms supply all our royal restaurants and state functions now. We must discuss tomorrow's requirements. Victoria's spoon clattered against fine china. Royal restaurants? Oui, Chef Dubois nodded, pulling out an elaborate tablet displaying produce orders. Mademoiselle Emma's Heritage Farm supplies all 7 royal kitchens, 3 Michelin-starred royal restaurants and of course His Majesty's personal table. Dad's face flushed darker than his expensive wine. That's impossible. Emma just has that little plot of land outside the city. Little. I smiled, finally pulling out my own tablet. The holographic display filled the private dining room with 3D maps of my agricultural empire. You mean the 2,000 acres of certified organic farmland? The one with the proprietary soil enhancement system that's revolutionizing organic farming. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her water. 2,000 acres? But you told us that I was playing in the dirt? I completed her thought. While you were mocking my little garden, I was developing farming methods that have changed the way royal kitchens source their ingredients. Methods that just received a €50 million grant from the European Agricultural Commission. The holograms shifted to show my real operation. Vast greenhouses using cutting-edge technology, vertical farming towers that maximized space and yield, and soil monitoring systems that could predict optimal growing conditions months in advance. That's just fancy gardening, Victoria tried, but her voice cracked. It's not real culinary art. Non. Chef Dubois raised an eyebrow. The vegetables in your soup tonight, bland, yes? No depth of flavor, no character. Compare them to... He opened his briefcase, producing a small container of my cherry tomatoes. These are what His Majesty demands at every meal. Taste. Victoria bit into a tomato, her trained palate unable to hide her reaction. Her eyes widened as layers of flavor exploded across her tongue. Impossible, she whispered. That's what the French Agricultural Ministry said. I nodded. Until my methods produced vegetables with 300% higher nutrient density and flavor profiles that made conventional produce taste like plastic. The holographic display shifted to show my research facility. Not the small farmhouse they'd imagined, but a state-of-the-art agricultural science center. The words Heritage Farms Agricultural Innovation Center, Emma Henderson, Chief Agricultural Officer, floated above real-time feeds from dozens of growing zones. Your new restaurant openings next month, Victoria? I smiled slightly. They've been delayed. The Royal Procurement Office has first rights to all Heritage Farm produce. Good luck finding comparable ingredients. First rights, she choked. To my little sister's vegetables? To the most sought-after organic produce in Europe, Chef Dubois corrected. The waiting list for Heritage Farm supply contracts is 3 years long. Even for Michelin-starred establishments. Dad stood abruptly, his restaurateur confidence wilting like week-old lettuce. This is absurd. Real restaurants require quality. I interrupted, pulling up more data. Like the 95% increase in flavor compound concentration? The perfect uniformity that your consistent industrial farms can't match? Or perhaps the fact that every royal chef in Europe now insists on Heritage Farm produce. The restaurant's sound system chimed as another alert came through. Chef Dubois checked his phone. The state dinner preparations. Of course, I gathered my things, including the tablet that controlled more agricultural innovation than my family had managed in their entire culinary careers combined. Victoria, since you're so interested in quality ingredients, you're welcome to tour the farms. Assuming you have the security clearance. Security clearance? Mom's voice pitched higher. For a farm. For an agricultural facility that supplies every royal household in Europe, Chef Dubois explained. The waiting list for even a basic tour is 18 months. I paused at the door, looking back at their stunned faces. Oh, and Victoria? Those food critics tonight? They've been exclusively eating heritage farm produce at royal functions for the past year. Interesting how perspective changes when you realize what real flavor is. The bitter taste of reality was finally reaching their refined palates, and it was more satisfying than any dish they'd ever served. The Heritage Farm's main conference center gleamed in the morning sun, its glass walls overlooking acres of precision-controlled organic cultivation. My family shuffled in like chastened culinary students, their designer outfits looking out of place among the agricultural innovation displays. Victoria's chef whites seemed particularly stark against the living wall of vertical herbs behind her. Welcome to the future of agriculture, I addressed the gathered crowd of Michelin-starred chefs, royal procurement officers and agricultural scientists. Today, we demonstrate our new flavor enhancement protocols. Flavor enhancement? Victoria scoffed weakly. You mean fertilizer? I mean revolutionary soil biology manipulation, I corrected, activating the room's central holographic system. A complex molecular structure appeared, rotating slowly. This is what makes Heritage Farm produce unique. We're not just growing food. We're engineering flavor at the cellular level. Dad leaned forward, his restaurateur's curiosity piqued despite himself. But taste is subjective. Is it? Chef Dubois interrupted, joining me at the front. Your daughter's tomatoes contain 47 distinct flavor compounds. Industrial farms manage 5, maybe 6. The science is quite objective. The screens surrounding the room lit up with live feeds from our various growing zones. Each one showcasing different aspects of our proprietary system. Soil monitoring robots, atmospheric control units and AI-driven nutrient delivery systems. 3 years ago, I continued, pulling up comparison data, while you were mocking my dirt obsession, I was developing algorithms that could predict and enhance flavor profiles before the seeds were even planted. 2 years ago, while you bragged about your restaurant empire, I was revolutionizing agricultural science with quantum soil analysis and microbiome engineering. Mom's perfectly manicured hands clutched her designer handbag. But your culinary degree, you left the restaurant business. To lead a €50 million research initiative, I completed her thought. The same initiative that just made Heritage Farms the exclusive supplier to every royal household in Europe. The room's AI system activated, projecting detailed soil analysis data around each person. Beginning demonstration sequence, it announced. Showing real-time flavor development in Test Field 7. Test Field 7? Victoria stood, her culinary pride crumbling. What's happening? I smiled, remembering all the times she'd dismissed my playing in the dirt. We're about to show you how we can control and enhance flavor development in real time. Something your industrial suppliers can't even begin to comprehend. The color drained from Dad's face. That's not possible. Actually, Chef Dubois interjected, it's why we're all here. Heritage Farms methods have been designated as a national secret by 3 European governments. The flavor profiles they achieve are considered a matter of state security. The screens erupted with live data from the test fields. Robots moved with precise coordination, adjusting soil conditions microscopically, while AI systems monitored and adjusted flavor development in real time. Mon Dieu, Mom whispered, watching the process unfold. The precision, the control, are beyond traditional agriculture, I nodded. Which is why the Royal Procurement Office has exclusive rights to our entire production, including the new varieties we're developing specifically for state functions. Victoria sank into her chair. Our restaurants will need new suppliers, I confirmed. Though good luck finding comparable quality. By the way, those critic reviews you're so proud of? They've been comparing everything to our produce for the past year. Might explain your recent drop in ratings. 1 month after the demonstration that revolutionized culinary agriculture, I stood in my command center overlooking the vast expanse of heritage farms. The morning sun illuminated our newest addition, a glass-domed research facility larger than my family's flagship restaurant. Wall-to-wall screens displayed real-time data from our global operations, soil conditions, flavor profiles, and growth metrics from every precision-controlled acre. Ms. Henderson, my AI assistant announced, your family has arrived for their procurement meeting. Send them in, I replied, adjusting the environmental controls that maintained our proprietary growing conditions. The same technology they'd once called a wasteful investment. They entered like humbled food critics after a disappointing meal. Victoria without her usual chef's swagger, Dad clutching desperate supplier contracts, and Mom's designer outfit somehow less impressive among the agricultural innovation displays. Let's review your situation, I began, bringing up their restaurant's performance data. Victoria, your new restaurant's openings have been delayed indefinitely, she admitted, her chef's whites lacking their usual crispness. No supplier can match the quality our critics expect. We've lost 3 Michelin stars across the group. 3 stars so far, the AI corrected. Current projections suggest 2 more will be lost next quarter unless produce quality improves significantly. Dad shuffled his contracts. About our supply chain is inadequate, I cut in, displaying comparative flavor analyses. Your current suppliers' produce shows 72% lower flavor compound concentration than our baseline. The critics have noticed. But our reputation, he started, was built on quality you can no longer access. I moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Interesting how important playing in the dirt becomes when it affects your bottom line. Mom's hands twisted her designer scarf. The cooking school enrollment has dropped 60% since you lost access to heritage farm produce. I turned back. Students are transferring to programs that have our teaching contracts. Culinary education requires quality ingredients, Mom. The screens shifted to show our global impact. Exclusive contracts with every major royal household, 3-year waiting lists for supply agreements, and a revolutionary new growing system that made traditional agriculture obsolete. Your options, I continued, are limited but clear. Close your restaurants and cooking schools or... Please, Victoria whispered, her culinary metals seeming to dim. We need those contracts. Need. I raised an eyebrow. Like I needed your support when I started this? Like I needed your respect when I chose agriculture over restaurants. The AI chimed softly. Ms. Henderson, the Royal Procurement Office has arrived for the seasonal planning session. Thank you, I acknowledged, then turned back to my family. I'm offering you a choice. Convert your restaurants to Heritage Farm Showcase venues, under our complete control and standards. Your chefs will need to be retrained in our flavor optimization protocols. Dad's face reddened. Complete control. But our culinary vision is outdated, I finished. Our produce requires specific preparation methods to maximize flavor profiles. Your vision will need to adapt. And the cooking school? Mom asked quietly. It will join our culinary agriculture program, I said. Students will learn that flavor starts in the soil, not just on the stove. Victoria stood. Emma, about all those times we laughed at your farming. They taught me lessons about agricultural innovation, I smiled. The same lessons your chefs will now learn in our retraining program. The screens showed their restaurants losing money, while Heritage Farms' profits soared. Each chart a clear reminder. The tables had turned. The contracts are ready, I continued. Sign today and we'll supply your restaurants next quarter. Wait and you'll join the 3-year queue. 3 years. Dad's voice cracked. We'll be bankrupt in 3 months. You should have thought of that before mocking sustainable agriculture, I replied. Flavor, like karma, grows from what you plant. As they left, replaced by eager royal procurement officers, I watched them pass our new lab. A molecular gastronomy center studying soil flavor interactions. The sign read, The Future of Flavor, Heritage Farms Innovation Center. Through the windows, our experimental fields stretched to the horizon. Each acre proved that the best revenge isn't served on a plate. It grows in the soil they ignored. Mom paused at the door. The crystal stemware clinked as my family gathered around the mahogany dining table for Mom's 60th birthday celebration. The same table where 2 years ago, Grandpa had read his will, leaving me 5,000 acres of Nevada desert while my siblings received his valuable assets. To Mom, Derek raised his glass, my investment banker brother wearing his usual Seville Row suit. And to Smart Investments. His smirk in my direction wasn't subtle. I took a slow sip of wine, remembering the day of the will reading. Derek had received Grandpa's stock portfolio. Sarah, my corporate lawyer sister, got the Manhattan penthouse. And I got what they called worthless dirt. How's your land management going? Sarah asked with fake politeness, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. Still paying property taxes on sand? Mom shot her a warning look, but the damage was done. 2 years of their condescension bubbled up. Every family dinner, every holiday gathering, they'd found ways to remind me of my foolish decision to keep the land instead of selling it for pennies. Actually, I started, but Derek cut me off. You know, I have some clients interested in distressed properties, he offered magnanimously. I could probably get you 50 cents an acre. Better than paying taxes on desert. I checked my phone discreetly, reading the latest message from the Geological Survey team. Their preliminary reports had been promising, but this was different. Speaking of investments, Sarah chimed in, my firm just closed another energy sector deal. $10 billion in oil field acquisitions. She paused for effect. Real oil fields, not empty desert. Mom tried changing the subject. The salmon is lovely, isn't it? A new recipe. Remember when you wanted us to invest in your survey project? Derek laughed. What was it, 50,000 for geological studies? On desert land. I had approached them both last year, offering partnership shares in exchange for survey funding. They'd laughed me out of their offices. So I'd taken out loans, maxed out credit cards, and funded the surveys myself. That reminds me, Sarah added, Matthews Energy is looking for cheap land for solar farms. Might be your best option. I could make an introduction. Her voice dripped with fake sympathy. My phone buzzed again. The final confirmation from the survey team. $8.2 billion estimated deposit value. Multiple major oil companies requesting immediate meetings. Would anyone like more salt? Mom asked desperately. I would, I smiled, enjoying the moment. Pass the salt, please. At least the property taxes must be low, Derek continued. Not much value in sand and rocks. I sprinkled salt on my salmon, taking my time. You know, it's funny you mention value. Please, Sarah sighed, not another one of your desert development schemes. Actually, I pulled out the Geological Survey report. I was thinking more about oil development schemes. The silence that followed was worth every moment of their previous mockery. What do you mean, oil? Derek's hand froze halfway to his wine glass. The Geological Survey team confirmed it this morning, I said casually. $8.2 billion in proven reserves. Apparently, Grandpa's worthless desert sits on one of the largest untapped oil deposits in North America. Sarah's Cartier bracelet clattered against her water glass. That's impossible. The major oil companies disagree, I continued, enjoying their expressions. I have meetings next week with their acquisition teams. Though given the current bidding war, I might just develop it myself. Bidding war. Derek's banker instincts kicked in. What bidding war? 5 companies so far. I scrolled through my messages. Current top offer is $12 billion. But that seems low considering the reserve estimates. Mom's birthday cake sat forgotten as I pulled up the satellite surveys, geological reports, and drilling projections. The same data they'd refused to help fund a year ago. You could have been equal partners, I reminded them. 50,000 each for 30% stake. What's 30% of $12 billion, Derek? You're the investment banker, run the numbers. His face went from red to white as he calculated his missed opportunity. Now, I stood up, gathering my things. If you'll excuse me, I have a call with some Saudi investors. Mom, happy birthday. The salmon was delicious. I paused at the door, turning back to my stunned siblings. Oh, and Derek? About your offer of 50 cents an acre? I think I'll pass. The door closed behind me on absolute silence. Sometimes dessert is best served cold. I could hear Sarah's heels clicking against the hardwood as she followed me to the foyer. "Wait," she called out, her lawyer mask cracking. "We should discuss this as a family. Like we discussed it last year?" I turned, remembering her exact words. "Don't waste my time with desert fantasies. I deal with real estate, not sand castles." Derek appeared behind her, his banker's smile firmly in place. "Let's be reasonable. With my financial expertise and Sarah's legal knowledge. I have a team of attorneys now," I cut him off. "From Sarah's competitor firm, actually. They're quite interested in desert law." The flinch was satisfying. "And my financial advisors used to work for your bank, Derek. Before I offered them better terms." Mom appeared in the doorway, still clutching her napkin. "You knew? All this time while they were mocking my inheritance." "Yes." I softened my tone for her. "Grandpa knew too. That's why he left me the land." The memory of his last private conversation with me surfaced. "The desert keeps its secrets," he'd said, his eyes twinkling. "But it reveals them to those patient enough to look deeper." He'd left me his old geological surveys, handwritten notes from the 1960s that had started my investigation. Grandpa knew there was oil? Sarah's legal mind was racing. We could contest the will. "The 2-year statute of limitations expired last month," I smiled. "But you'd know that, being such an excellent lawyer." Derek's phone was already out, likely pulling up land surveys of adjacent properties. "The surrounding land was purchased through shell companies over the past year," I finished. "Amazing what you can do with a good credit line and patient sellers. I believe you called it throwing money away on worthless dirt last Christmas." The Saudi investors were indeed waiting for my call, but I lingered a moment longer. This needed to be said. 2 years, I continued quietly. 2 years of snide comments at every family gathering. Of being the joke in your country club stories. The foolish sibling who got swindled with worthless desert while you got the real inheritance. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. "Every time I needed help, you offered mockery instead. When I asked for investment, you offered insults. When I needed partners, you could barely hide your contempt." My phone buzzed again, another oil company entering the bidding war. $14 billion now. "The drilling rights alone are worth more than both of your inheritances combined," I added. "The natural gas deposits we discovered last week? That's another $6 billion. The rare earth minerals survey comes in tomorrow, but the preliminary numbers are interesting." Sarah grabbed Derek's arm for support. Mom sank into a nearby chair. "But the best part?" I opened the front door. "There's a reason I bought all the surrounding land. This deposit? It's just the first one we found." The implications hit them like a physical blow. Derek actually staggered. "Now if you'll excuse me," I stepped outside into the warm evening air. "I have some Saudi princes waiting to discuss desert property values. Though given the latest numbers, I might just keep building my sand castle." I paused one final time, looking back at my shell-shocked family. "Mom, I'll have my office send over the paperwork for your new retirement account. I think you'll find the terms generous." The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, cutting off Derek's desperate wait. The next month transformed more than just my family dynamics. It transformed an entire region. News of the oil discovery leaked faster than expected, turning our quiet corner of Nevada into ground zero for the biggest energy rush of the decade. I watched from my newly established office in the Las Vegas corporate tower as helicopters circled the property, oil company executives desperately seeking a glimpse of their missed opportunity. The same executives who, 6 months ago, wouldn't return my calls about potential surveys. "Another offer from ExxonMobil," my assistant announced, adding to the growing pile. $20 billion all cash. "File it with the others," I replied, reviewing the latest geological reports. The Saudi delegation would arrive in an hour, and they needed to understand one critical fact. $20 billion was now an insult. Derek tried calling daily. His voicemails evolved from thinly veiled demands to increasingly desperate pleas. "Just give me 10 minutes to present some financing options," his latest message begged. "My clients are willing to offer unprecedented terms." Sarah took a different approach, sending formal legal letters suggesting family-based partnership structures. Each one more elaborate than the last, each carefully crafted to give them a piece of what they'd once mocked. I kept them all in a special folder labeled Desert Fantasies. Mom at least showed genuine remorse. I should have stopped them, she admitted during our weekly lunch, now held in my private dining room overlooking the strip. The way they treated you. Water under the bridge, I assured her, signing the documents that established her lifetime trust fund. Or should I say oil under the sand? The numbers kept growing. The initial $8.2 billion estimate proved laughably conservative. The deposit wasn't just large, it was a geological miracle, a perfect confluence of conditions that had created one of the richest oil fields discovered in the last 50 years. The secondary surveys are complete, my head geologist reported, barely containing his excitement. The formation extends further than we thought. Much further. How much further? The entire northern section. He spread out the new maps. It's all connected. Conservative estimate, 30 billion barrels. I leaned back calculating. At current oil prices. There's more, he continued. The natural gas pocket we found? It's bigger than Texas Barnett Shale. And the rare earth minerals. He shook his head in disbelief. The Chinese have already called twice today. My phone buzzed, another text from Derek. Please. Just 10 minutes. My firm's energy division. I muted it without reading further. Sarah tried ambushing me at my office, using her legal credentials to bluff her way past security. She found herself explaining her actions to federal agents instead. Turns out oil fields this size come with government protection. Your sister seemed quite insistent, my security chief noted. She's always been passionate about family assets, I replied. Though her passion seems to have grown recently. The Saudis arrived in 3 private jets, their motorcade stretching half a mile. Their initial offer made ExxonMobil's $20 billion look like pocket change. We understand the value of desert, their chief negotiator smiled. Perhaps better than your siblings? Word of their offer leaked somehow. Derek's next voicemail was slurred, desperate. Sarah's legal letters became less formal, more pleading. Even their spouses started calling, floating suggestions of family reconciliation. I focused instead on building something they'd never imagined possible. The desert that had drawn their mockery was transforming into an energy empire. The initial drilling platforms rose like mechanical giants from the sand, their shadows stretching across land that had once been worthless. Each one represented billions in future revenue, decades of production. But it was the secondary discoveries that really changed the game. 1 year after Mom's birthday dinner, I called a family meeting. Not in their prestigious offices or elegant homes, but at the site itself, the worthless desert that had become the energy sector's biggest story. Their faces as the helicopter approached were priceless. Where empty sand had stretched to the horizon, a vast complex of drilling platforms, processing facilities, and support infrastructure now dominated the landscape. A private city had sprung up to support the operations, complete with its own airport and power grid. Welcome to Desert Basin Energy, I announced as we landed. Or as you used to call it, my sand castle. Derek stumbled out of the helicopter, his designer suit already gathering dust. Sarah's high heels proved hilariously inadequate for the terrain. Mom wisely had worn practical shoes. This is. Derek gestured helplessly at the sprawling operation. Currently producing 2 million barrels per day, I finished. With projected increases to 5 million by next quarter. Would you like to guess the daily revenue? Sarah's legal training kicked in. The Saudi deal was declined, I smiled. Along with all the others. Why sell an empire when you can build one? The tour broke them completely. Each facility larger than the last. Each operation revealing the true scale of what they'd dismissed. The oil was just the beginning. The natural gas processing plant alone dwarfed most refineries. And this, I said, stopping at a heavily secured facility, is why the Chinese keep calling. The rare earth mineral processing center hummed with activity, extracting elements crucial to modern technology. Elements worth more per ounce than gold. 1 year, I continued watching their expressions. 1 year since you laughed at Mom's dinner table. Care to calculate the returns on your missed investment opportunity, Derek? He'd done the math, I could see it in his face. $50,000 for a 30% stake. The number would haunt him forever. But that's not why I brought you here, I led them to the final facility. Remember when I mentioned the surrounding land? The geological survey team waited with their latest reports. Maps showing something that made the oil field look small in comparison. The entire basin, the chief geologist explained, sits on top of something unprecedented. The oil was just the surface indicator. Derek grabbed the reports, his banking experience letting him grasp the implications immediately. He actually had to sit down. He looked up, face pale. That's not possible. That's what they said about the oil, I reminded him. Turns out Grandpa's worthless desert is even more interesting than we thought. Sarah read over his shoulder, her legal mind already spinning. The mineral rights alone are already secured, I cut her off. Along with all surrounding properties. Amazing what you can accomplish when no one takes you seriously. Mom stayed quiet, but her eyes said everything. Pride mixed with regret, pride in what I'd built, regret for not stopping their mockery sooner. The Chinese delegation arrives tomorrow, I continued, followed by the Europeans. Seems everyone's suddenly interested in desert property values. Derek finally found his voice. If you let me broker the deals. My financial team sends their regards, I interrupted. They quite enjoy their new offices, the ones with views of your old bank. Sir tried next. The legal complexities are handled by your former firm's entire energy division. Amazing what a billion-dollar retainer can accomplish. The sun set behind the drilling platforms, casting long shadows across land that had transformed from worthless to priceless. Land that could have been partly theirs if they'd seen past their own arrogance. The helicopter leaves in 10 minutes, I announced. Unless you'd like to stay and watch tomorrow's announcement about what we really found under all this sand. They tried protesting, bargaining, pleading. The helicopter's rotor drowned them out. Back in the operations center, I watched their departure on the security feeds. Derek's slumped shoulders, Sarah's defeated posture, Mom's quiet dignity. My phone buzzed, confirmation of tomorrow's press conference. The world wasn't ready for what we'd discovered beneath the oil. The real treasure that Grandpa had known about all along. Sometimes I mused, watching the helicopter disappear into the desert sunset. The best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's proving them wrong on a scale that rewrites history. The facility's lights came on, illuminating an operation that had only begun to reveal its true potential. Somewhere I like to think Grandpa was smiling. After all, he'd written it in his notes all those years ago. The desert keeps the greatest secrets for those wise enough not to laugh at sand. The crystal chandelier cast elegant shadows across Mom's birthday dinner, each sparkle seemingly mocking my presence at the prestigious St. James restaurant's private dining room. I adjusted my simple black dress, purposefully understated, and took another sip of water while my sister Amanda showed off her latest diamond bracelet. The hospital board just loves having me in cardiology, Amanda announced, her voice carrying that familiar note of superiority. We just received another $10 million in funding. She turned to me with practiced concern. Emily, are you still at that little clinic in the East Side? I felt Dad's disapproving glance before I saw it. The community clinic serves an important purpose, I said calmly, checking my watch. A subtle Patek Philippe that cost more than Amanda's entire jewelry collection. None of them recognized it, of course. Important purpose, my sister scoffed, cutting into her Wagyu beef. You mean important practice in basic medicine. When was the last time you did any real surgery? Mom set down her champagne flute with a delicate clink. Darling, we just want what's best for you. The clinic work is admirable, but you're a Patterson. You should be at Metropolitan General with your sister. I declined their offer, I replied, my phone buzzing silently in my clutch. Another acquisition update from my legal team. The papers would be signed tomorrow. Declined. Dad's voice rose slightly. Do you know how many strings I pulled to get you that interview? Amanda made department head in 3 years. You've been at that clinic for 5 years with nothing to show for it. I glanced at my sister's smug expression. If they only knew that while she was department head of cardiology, I owned the entire hospital system. Tomorrow's board meeting would be particularly interesting. Nothing to show except band-aids and flu shots, Amanda added with a laugh that our parents joined. Remember when we were kids and you said you'd be chief of surgery? Now look at us. The maitre d' approached our table with perfect timing. Excuse me, Dr. Patterson? he said, looking between my sister and me. That's me, Amanda preened, already reaching for what she assumed would be another accolade. My apologies, I meant Dr. Emily Patterson, he clarified, extending a phone. Emergency call from Metropolitan General. They insisted it was urgent. The table fell silent as I took the phone. Dr. Patterson speaking. Dr. Patterson, we have an emergency situation. The Vice President's motorcade was involved in an accident. His wife needs immediate cardiac surgery, and you're the only one qualified for this particular procedure. As Chief of Surgery, we need you here now. I kept my voice level, years of practice in the OR serving me well. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Prep OR 1 and have my team ready. The maitre d' retreated as I stood, gathering my clutch. Amanda's face had turned an interesting shade of pale. Chief of Surgery? There must be some mistake. I would know if the merger paperwork becomes public tomorrow. I cut in smoothly. Metropolitan General, along with the other 6 hospitals in the network, are now part of Patterson Medical Group. I turned to my father, whose wine glass had slipped from nerveless fingers, spreading a red stain across the white tablecloth. Those strings you pulled for the interview? I was there to evaluate the hospital's acquisition potential, not beg for a position. But how? Mom whispered, her birthday celebration forgotten. That little clinic was my first acquisition. I now own the largest private hospital network on the East Coast. I dropped several $100 bills on the table. Dinner's on me. Amanda, I'll see you tomorrow at the board meeting. Don't be late. I'm restructuring the cardiology department. My phone buzzed again as I turned to leave. The helicopter was already on its way to the restaurant's rooftop landing pad. I paused at the table one last time, allowing myself a small smile at their shocked faces. Oh, and Amanda? About that $10 million in funding? I approved it last week. You're welcome. The sound of another wine glass shattering followed me out of the private dining room. Tomorrow would bring major changes to Metropolitan General, but tonight I had a vice president's wife to save. As I walked toward the elevator that would take me to the roof, I finally allowed myself to feel the satisfaction of 5 years of careful planning coming to fruition. The maitre d' rushed to open the door for me, this time with newfound respect in his eyes. Dr. Patterson, your helicopter is ready. Behind me, I could hear my mother's voice rising in confusion, my father's demands for explanations, and most satisfyingly, my sister's complete silence. But I had more important things to focus on now. A life needed saving, and I had a hospital empire to run. The sleek helicopter touched down on Metropolitan General's rooftop landing pad exactly 9 minutes later. Through the windows of the executive floor, I could see the board members who'd gathered for the emergency, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning recognition as I stepped onto the helipad in my dinner dress. Dr. Roberts, the current head administrator, rushed forward. Dr. Patterson, there's been a misunderstanding. We called for the chief of dash. He stopped short, staring at the Patterson Medical Group ID badge I'd pulled from my clutch. No misunderstanding, Dr. Roberts. Or one ready. I strode past him toward the elevator, my heels clicking purposefully on the concrete. The small crowd of administrators parted like water. But you're the clinic doctor. The one who... His voice trailed off as his assistant rushed up, holding a tablet displaying tomorrow's press release. His face went ashen. The acquisition papers. You're the buyer. Update me on the vice president's wife's condition, I said, entering the elevator. And have my surgical team ready in 5 minutes. The OR floor was a controlled chaos of preparation. Through the observation window, I could see Amanda standing in OR 1, still in her dinner dress, gesturing frantically at the gathering surgical team. This must be a mistake, she was saying as I entered the scrub room. I'm the head of cardiology. I should be leading this surgery. The vice president specifically requested Dr. Patterson, a nurse replied, looking uncomfortable. Yes, but I'm Dr. Patterson. She means me, I said, entering the OR. The room fell silent. Amanda, you can observe from the gallery. This procedure requires my particular expertise. Your expertise? She sputtered. You work at a clinic. The OR doors opened again as Dr. Roberts entered with the morning's papers. Actually, Dr. Amanda, your sister has been pioneering this procedure at research hospitals worldwide. She holds the patents on the technology we'll be using. Patents? Amanda whispered. Why did you think the VP's team requested me specifically? I began scrubbing in the familiar ritual calming. That little clinic was a cover for my research facility. We've been developing revolutionary cardiac procedures for 5 years. The surgical team straightened as the implications sank in. Dr. Roberts cleared his throat. Team, meet Dr. Emily Patterson, Chief of Surgery and, as of tomorrow morning, owner of Metropolitan General Hospital. A tray of instruments clattered as a nurse dropped it. Amanda gripped the wall for support. The merger announcement goes public at 9 a.m., I continued, letting a nurse help me into my surgical gown. Patterson Medical Group now owns this hospital and 6 others. But right now we have a life to save. Amanda, gallery or leave. Everyone else, positions. This whole time. Amanda's voice shook. While we were mocking you, I was building an empire, I finished. And revolutionizing cardiac surgery. Now excuse me, I have work to do. The next 4 hours showcased exactly why I was chief of surgery. My hands moved with practiced precision through the groundbreaking procedure I'd developed. Through the gallery windows I could see Amanda watching, her face a mixture of shock and dawning respect. Hospital administrators came and went, whispering urgently about tomorrow's announcement. As I completed the final suture, my phone buzzed with an update. Metropolitan General's stock had already jumped 40% on early merger rumors. I smiled behind my surgical mask. Patient stable. Excellent work, everyone. Walking out of the OR, I found Dr. Roberts waiting with the official merger documents. Dr. Patterson, we had no idea. All these years. Tomorrow morning 8 a.m. full board meeting, I said, signing the papers with a flourish. We'll discuss the restructuring then. I paused, seeing Amanda still standing in the gallery. Oh, and Dr. Roberts? Call our parents. Tell them their daughter just saved the vice president's wife using a procedure she invented. The headlines would break in a few hours. Medical prodigy reveals hospital empire. But for now, I headed to my newly revealed private office on the top floor, leaving behind a wake of shocked administrators and one very quiet sister. Phase 2 of my plan was complete. Tomorrow would bring even bigger revelations. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office at Metropolitan General, casting a warm glow over the mahogany conference table where my family sat in stunned silence. The Wall Street Journal lay between us, my photo on the front page. Medical prodigy's $4.2 billion hospital empire revealed. 7 hospitals, Dad said quietly, staring at the article. You own 7 hospitals. 8 as of this morning, I corrected, signing another acquisition document. I just closed on St. Luke's Medical Center. My assistant entered silently, placing a fresh coffee service on the table. Will you need the helicopter for the 2 p.m. board meeting, Dr. Patterson? She asked. No, Sarah. Have them come here. I turned back to my family. Mom, you haven't said anything. She looked up from her untouched coffee, tears in her eyes. All those times we dismissed you, criticized your choices. While you were funding Amanda's cardiology department, Dad interrupted. You already own the hospital? I own the entire network, I clarified. Amanda's department, like everything else, answers to my board now. I looked at my sister, who hadn't spoken since entering the office. Speaking of which, we need to discuss your position. Amanda flinched. Are you firing me? No, I said, pulling out a folder. I'm promoting you. Your research proposals from last year, the ones the previous board rejected, they were brilliant. They just couldn't see the potential. Her head snapped up. You read my proposals? I read everything that crosses my administrators' desks. Your ideas for minimally invasive cardiac procedures align perfectly with our new research division. I slid the folder across the table. I'm making you Director of Innovative Cardiology Research. Full funding, your own team, and access to the new facilities we're building. But, Amanda's voice cracked. After how we treated you, I built this empire to save lives and advance medical science, I said firmly. You're an excellent doctor, Amanda. Your only fault was believing I couldn't be one too. A knock at the door interrupted us. Dr. Roberts entered with another stack of papers. Dr. Patterson, the vice president's office, called. His wife's recovery is exceeding expectations. They're calling your procedure revolutionary. Schedule a press conference for next week, I replied. And move up the research facility groundbreaking. I turned back to my family. Mom, Dad, I need to discuss something with you too. They straightened in their chairs, tension visible in their shoulders. The Patterson Medical Scholarship Foundation launches next month. I'm endowing it with $50 million to start. I want you both on the board. Mom's charity experience and Dad's business connections would be invaluable. We'll fund medical students who want to serve underserved communities. Like your clinic, Mom whispered. Exactly. That clinic showed me what dedicated doctors could do with proper resources. Now I can provide those resources across the entire network. Dad cleared his throat. Emily, we were so wrong about you. All these years. Water under the bridge, I said, standing as my phone buzzed. But right now I have a hospital network to run. Sarah will show you the foundation paperwork. I paused at the door. Oh, and Mom? Happy birthday. The new cardiac wing at Metropolitan General will be named in your honor. As I walked toward the boardroom, I heard Amanda following me. Emily, wait. I turned to face my sister. Thank you for seeing past my arrogance to my potential. Just like you saw the potential in that little clinic, when nobody else did. I smiled genuinely this time. That's what good leaders do, Amanda. Now, ready to revolutionize cardiac medicine together. She straightened her white coat, a new confidence in her stance. Lead the way, Chief. Walking into the boardroom, I felt a deep satisfaction. I'd built more than a hospital empire. I'd built a chance to change medicine for the better. And if my family had learned something about judging appearances along the way, well, that was just a bonus. The board members rose as I entered. Time to shape the future of healthcare one hospital at a time. Let's begin, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. The days of being underestimated were officially over. The board meeting concluded with unanimous approval of my 10-year expansion plan. As the members filed out, Dr. Roberts lingered behind. Dr. Patterson, the media requests are pouring in. Forbes, Time, all wanting exclusive interviews about the secret billionaire doctor. Schedule them for next month, I replied, gathering my files. After the new trauma center opening. My phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. Emergency consult in or 3. You need to see this. I found her in the operating room, bent over a complex cardiac case. She looked up as I entered. I want to implement your microsurgery technique here. Show me. For the next 2 hours I worked alongside my sister, teaching her the procedure I'd developed. The tension between us melted away, replaced by the shared passion for saving lives that had driven us both to medicine. Later that evening I returned to my office to find my parents waiting. Mom's eyes were red from crying. We found your old journals, she said softly, placing a worn notebook on my desk. From when you first started at the clinic. Your plans, your research. While we were dismissing you, you were building all this. Dad picked up the journal, opening to a page filled with early sketches of surgical innovations. You really did it, Emily. Everything you dreamed of. Not everything, I said, taking out a sealed envelope. This is my next project. A free medical school attached to the research center. Full scholarships for promising students who want to serve in underserved areas. I handed them the plans. I need your help to make it happen. Amanda appeared in the doorway, still in her surgical scrubs. Count me in too. I want to teach. Looking at my family, really looking at them, I saw what I'd hoped for all along. Not just respect but understanding. They finally saw me not as the failed daughter, but as the visionary I'd always been. Patterson Medical Center, I announced, pulling up the architectural renders on my office screens. Opening next spring. A teaching hospital, research center, and medical school in one. I turned to my family. Together we'll change the face of medicine. Mom reached for my hand. We're so proud of you, Emily. Not because of the empire you built. She gestured at the wall of medical patents and achievements, but because of why you built it. To help people, I finished. Everything else, the money, the power, proving you wrong about me, that was secondary. Medicine was always my first love. The setting sun cast long shadows across my office as we gathered around the plans, a family united at last by something bigger than ourselves. My phone buzzed with another hospital acquisition alert, but for once I let it wait. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to revolutionize healthcare. But tonight was for healing, the most important thing of all, family. As we left the office together, I caught my reflection in the window. No longer the underestimated daughter, but the leader I'd always known I could be. The secret billionaire doctor was secret no more, and her real work was just beginning.